I wish we were a tenth as good as our intro is. I honestly do.
It sets the tone, and then we just disappoint the whole time.
Welcome, everybody, to the R&R Catcast, a fan-based podcast focusing on Montana State athletics. We're two dudes named Ryan from the state of Washington talking about our dear Montana State. We hope you enjoy. Welcome back, Bobcat fans. Well, Thorny, it is good to be talking to you on this early summer's night. How are you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm doing good. I got a fresh haircut, first post-haircut, or post-whatever, quarantine haircut. Feeling good about life. Feeling a lot better. Surprising how good a haircut feels when you haven't had one in like 4 months. How you doing?
I'm doing good. So I got a haircut 2-3 days ago as well. What was your experience in the barber?
It was a place I'd never been before. It was kind of weird. Just walked in. Everyone had masks on. The guy's like, "Oh, you want a haircut?" I'm like, "Yeah." And we just didn't talk the whole time, and he cut my hair. Really, my dream. I don't like to talk during haircuts, so it's perfect. Not a talker. Just cut my hair while I borderline doze off, and let's do this thing.
There you go.
How about you?
Well, mine was a little bit different. You had to make an appointment, which is typically normal, which I like to do because if you don't, I go to the Dan Dickow barber shop in Spokane, and he has like 2 or 3 of them. Gonzaga player, right? But now you can't just walk in and be accepted. You have to call ahead, and they have to clean everything before you go in, and clean everything as you go out, and you have to wear your mask in there. And so it's pretty low key, but yeah, it felt really good not to cut my own hair, which I've been doing for the last 3 months. And I found the hardest part for me, I don't know if you cut your own hair, Thorny, but getting right behind your ears, and that's the hardest part. If I could nail that, I pretty much would continue to cut my hair by myself. Thing you probably don't know about me in college is probably I cut my hair most of the time by myself.
Oh, so we knew.
Yeah, probably why I didn't have a girlfriend either in college. So, anyways,
if you are a long time listener to the show, you know that Ryan and I go back, but we actually didn't really know each other in college, so that joke lands empty. So I didn't really see you very much in college, but I heard about it.
Thorny, before we even get into anything else, I was thinking about today. It goes without saying because you and I do this Montana State podcast, but I am just so thankful to be a Bobcat. I was just kind of reflecting on that today. I just feel lucky to have gone to MSU, and I just have a lot of pride in our university right now.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way. I mean, I had a miniature viral tweet today for wearing a newly purchased Bobcat mask, COVID mask. I was rocking to work since work requires masks if you're going to be within 6 feet of someone. So I went like, I'm going to wear a Bobcat one. And just, it's got a lot of love and attention. And it just, is because I have Bobcat spirit that I bought the thing in the first place. And yeah, I feel the same way. Just love being a Bobcat. It's a good time to be a Bobcat, as I think MSU might actually be positioned to survive the pandemic better than a lot of other institutions across the country. We've heard a little bit of rumblings from Eastern Washington having some big problems. We're not going to get into that, but if you want to, go check it out. I'm sure there's articles in the Spokesman or whatever the paper is over there, but I'm sure you can find some information on that. But yeah, good time to be a Bobcat.
Right on, man. Well, enough news has come out recently that Ryan and I thought we would give our fans a little bit of an episode to chew on. One of the things we're going to talk about today is Hero Sports came out with a Big Sky basically ranking of a preseason ranking for 2020. We'll talk about what Sam and Brian put out there. We're going to talk about Craig Haley's top 25. And then we're going to give her a little bit of thought on Kevin Thomson out at Sac State. That's some big news, given that he was the 2019 Big Sky offensive MVP. But the meat of the conversation today, what we're going to focus in on is Troy Andersen not coming back this year, redshirting. And then if Troy Andersen's not coming back, wearing number 41.
Sounds like a good episode, jam-packed in some ways. A lot of topics, but yeah, we're definitely going to skim over some of them just so we can get to the meat of it, the Troy Andersen number 41 chat, but hoping to keep this episode bite-sized for everybody here tonight.
But first, let's talk about what's in our golden koozie. Thorny, what do you got on tap tonight, buddy?
I'm so excited to find this. I think you had sent me the picture of it a while ago, a month or two ago at this point. But Mac and Jack's is a brewery down in Seattle, and they make one of the better ambers that I've had. They call it the African Amber, but you've never been able to find it in stores. It's on tap all over the place, pretty much any bar in Western Washington. I don't know about over in Spokane area, but it's all over here. But for whatever reason, they never decided to bottle it or can it. I don't know if they have an agreement with their vendors or whatever, but they did a limited release of it. I snagged it, and I'm pretty excited to be drinking the Mac and Jack's African Amber, one of my favorite ambers. It's quite tasty.
Ryan, I think I had Mac and Jack's on just recently as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're the one that definitely got me searching for it. And I tried 2 or 3 different times since this whole quarantine started. And let me tell you, I drank my fair share of alcohol during this thing, especially when I stayed at home all day. But I couldn't find it. It was never there. I could find other Mac and Jack's offerings, but finally it was there. They only had like 2 left. I bought the last 2 6-packs for like $25 for 12 beers. That's a steal, but yeah, worth it.
I don't think you know this, but once you tweeted me a little picture of that the other day, I ended up going to the grocery store thereafter and got myself a 6-pack of that as well.
Yep, definitely top 3 or 4 ambers. I mean, I gotta put the Boson Amber top. I still like Alaskan Amber quite a bit, and then African Amber right here by Mac and Jack's. It's good top 3.
Yeah, well, Mac and Jack just taste different than any other amber that I've ever had. So it's almost in a class by itself. But yeah, delicious.
It's more ambery.
It's more like unfiltered too. It's just got that hazy profile to it, which is so cool.
Don't say the word hazy with a beer I like, because now I'm not going to like it. I'm going to disassociate my like for it because you threw a hipster hazy word onto it.
An hipster hazy word. Come on now, man. All right, well, let's move on. Look, what am I drinking, Ryan? I'm drinking what's called the Johnny Utah Pale Ale. And people probably know Johnny Utah as Keanu Reeves from Point Break, one of the shows back in the 90s. But anyways, Johnny
I'm
Utah.
Screaming, and I'm shooting a gun into the air over here, but you just can't see me.
Johnny Utah is from Georgetown Brewing in Seattle, Washington. They make other notable beers, Bodie's Off and Lucille. Manny's Pale Ale, I believe, is another one of their beers. I might be wrong on that last one, but anyways, Johnny Utah is a great pale ale. I love the pale ales, but it's the first time I've seen it in stores, not just on tap. So I picked up a 6-pack of that, and that's what we got in the GK right now.
Nice. I like it. I like everything about it. I would like it to drink that because I do like pale ales, actually. It's one of our crossover beers, I think, between you and me are pale ales.
There you go. Yeah, you could get on board with that.
I could. All right. Well, let's move into some news. Where do you want to start?
Let's go right into the Hero Sports Big Sky preview.
Getting the fun one out of the way. I like it. All right. Well, Hero Sports released their preseason rankings. As described by Sam Herder, these rankings are a prediction of what the standings will look like at the end of the season. It is the opinion of the author of this story and may differ from the order of our staff's top 25 FCS rankings. Conference schedules are taken into consideration, which I think is a key thing to look at when you come to like Montana State having a pretty tough schedule, Sacramento State having a pretty easy schedule, and so on and so forth. So top 5 rounded out by Hero Sports: Weber State, number 1, Montana Grizzlies, number 2, Bobcats, number 3, Eastern Washington, number 4, Sac State, number 5. Fully, just your initial impressions. What do you think of that top 5 there?
Well, the more I research and kind of poke around the Big Sky, kind of come to terms that Weber State is deserving of their high ranks. I mean, every poll we've seen them, they've been number 2, number 3, number 1 now, obviously in the Big Sky. I didn't think that they would have that kind of high ranking because of just their quarterback troubles. And I think they got a quarterback today. I don't know who it is, but they landed a transfer. So Weber being at the top, they returned most of their team from last year, and we all know they were a quarterfinal team, so that kind of makes sense. Montana, they just have some pretty explosive offensive players, notable their receivers with Kim and what's the guy on the outside?
Torre.
Yeah, the guy that
Torre.
got smashed by Jacque Allen on the first offensive play.
I was actually watching the beginning of that game while I was exercising earlier today. I was like, what do I want to watch? I know. I'll watch the Cat Grizz 2019 to get myself amped up, and I made it to you pretty much where he got crunched. Side story. Continue on.
Yeah, well, and then Montana's been pulling some transfers lately, so they've kind of been bolstering the ranks over there. So I could see Montana placed a little bit above us simply because of their offensive power, but and then again, they don't have Jeff Chilton, we do, so Montana State being right behind them, I wouldn't be surprised if we leapfrog Montana and Weber State. Honestly, if it was me, and obviously this bias is coming out right now, but Montana State being number 1 in the Big Sky, I think I can confidently say that comfortably for the first time, that I think we could easily be number 1 in the Big Sky.
Well, the schedule aligns it so that if we take care of business, we actually might be able to win the conference outright or tie for the. I mean, the Bobcats haven't won a conference in quite a long time, but we play Weber State, we play Eastern, and we play the Grizz, obviously, all on the road this year. So if we take care of business, I mean, chances are we're sitting atop undefeated at the end of the regular season. So I think the Bobcats do have a good chance to take that. I could see the arguments for having the Grizz ranked above us. I was listening to a little bit of the Hero Sports podcast today on this, and Sam brought up a pretty good and interesting point that he thinks that if the Bobcats and the Grizz play right now, he thinks that the Bobcats still win just because he thinks that the Grizz, unless the Grizz still have too many question marks on the offensive and the defensive lines, and the Bobcats are just a bad matchup for the Grizz, which is true. But the Grizz, I think, actually might have a team better built to take on some of the other powers in the country. They just, for whatever reason, Bobcats are just a really bad matchup for them. So I could see the rankings in this route, but it's kind of this year. I'm kind of thinking you got Weber State, you got the Grizz, you got the Bobcats as the top tier. The second tier, then you got Eastern and Sac State, who are Eastern's probably real close to us. Sac State's probably a little further back without Kevin Thomson, and then you just go back to that. What else does it matter? Like, who else is going to rise out of that crop? You're looking at Southern Utah, Northern Colorado, Idaho State, NAU, Cal Poly, Idaho, Portland State, UC Davis. I mean, do you see any of those challenging for the Big Sky title this year?
No, but my question to you is, aside from that elite top 3 that you were talking about, what would be your dark horse for the Big Sky?
It's almost a weird thing to say it, but Eastern's got to be in that conversation after the disappointing year they had last year. The fact that I don't think they're going to be picked to win by anybody, a conference. So yeah, they might be a dark horse, but that's a pretty easy, safe pick. If you're going to go beyond that, I would say, would you consider UC Davis as a candidate for the dark horse? Because they have a lot of returning players, and all they need to do is find another quarterback to replace Jake Meyer. And yeah, they had a disappointing year last year as well, but I could see them rebounding and being kind of a stronger team, not relying on a quarterback so much. So they could have a decent year. I have not looked at their schedule, but I could see them being another candidate for the dark horse.
Yep. I'm going outside that top 5, top 6. And so you did mention Eastern Washington and UC Davis. And so those don't seem to me like that fits the dark horse mold. I was thinking more like a Northern Colorado with a new coach, Ed McCaffrey. So, but who knows? But I don't think anybody's going to touch the top 3, Weber State, Montana State.
If you're talking like a team that could come out of nowhere, that has been historically pretty bad for a season or 2 or 3 or 4, you can't discount a team coached by Beau Baldwin. And Idaho's not going to be bad forever. they got Mason Petrino is no longer a detriment to their offense. I don't know who the quarterback is, but I can't imagine it being too much worse than Mason Petrino. So Idaho and Cal Poly would probably be my two completely more dark horse typical picks, the teams that would probably be picked to finish like 6th or worse by the media.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Northern Colorado. I think by the time it's all done, I think Eddie McCaffrey is going to get those guys motivated. I was a big fan of Ed McCaffrey, so that's all I'm going off of on this point. But yeah, I think they're going to make some strides this year.
All I keep thinking is the Ed McCaffrey, Jerry Glanville experiment, Big Sky 2.0.
That's a good point. But Jared Glanville was really old. I mean, he's still ancient, but he was stinking old when he went to Portland State.
But he had way more coaching credentials than Ed McCaffrey will ever have.
That's a good point.
He coached in a Super Bowl, right? Or did he win a Super Bowl? Like he's a legit NFL coach.
Yeah, but a lot of times those guys don't like really translate well to, college football.
No.
And vice versa, like college football coaches don't necessarily translate well to the NFL. So, hey, a little sidebar. What did you think when Portland State hired Glanville and they did the total rebranding with the black forms? And did you like that?
To be honest with you, I kind of did. I had no problem with Portland State trying to reinvent themselves as a team that community was not interested in or cared about. So why not try and do a complete revamp, trying to get people interested? I remember that their season tickets were like the highest season tickets sold in a long time, and came out with the black uniforms, kind of cool looking, and I was on board. I liked it. What about you?
Yeah, I loved it, man. You know me, I'm a huge fan of different types of uniforms, alterations. I am not the person who is just like full on tradition when it comes to uniforms. So yeah, I was a big fan.
All right. Anything else you want to talk about the Hero Sports?
Yeah, I do got a quick buy or sell for you. You got to just be honest with me. Buy or sell, we're going to beat Eastern this year.
I'll buy it. Eastern hasn't played us for a couple of years. They're not going to know what's coming for them under the new improved Jeff Choate Bobcats.
As long as we can get after Eric Barriere, we'll be just fine right there.
As long as we can run the ball 7 yards to carry like we did against every team that wasn't elite defense, and Eastern never has an elite defense, we'll be fine.
Right on, man. Let's move this conversation. Let's bounce real quick. We'll just have a quick cup of tea with the Athlon Sports Top 25.
So the Bobcats landed, and I'm making sure I'm looking at the same thing you're looking at here. Number 5 on Craig Haley's Athlon Sports. I believe this would be Craig Haley's personal poll and not his poll he puts together for the FCS stats, which has a bunch of voting members. I believe this is basically just Craig Haley's poll.
How many polls that guy got?
Craig Haley was very high in the Bobcats last year, and in fact, he brags about picking the Bobcats as his dark horse last year. So you want to talk about the term dark horse, but I don't know. I'm not sure this was before Trey Andersen redshirting, but number 5 seems, again, we don't need to talk about this very much. It seems fine. We're above the Grizz in this poll, so that makes sense to me because I think we will, on paper, can beat the Grizz, and I think even if the Grizz have a better overall season than us, I can still see us being higher ranked at the end of the season just because we're going to win that last game. So I'm fine with it. What do you think?
Yep, I like this. Number 3, Weber State. So let's just run through the top 5. We got number 1, North Dakota State. Number 2, Northern Iowa. They're always like a front runner, right?
Preseason front runners.
Number 3, Weber. Again, showing some love from Craig. Number 4, we have James Madison. Again, 5, Bobcats. 6, South Dakota State. 7, the Grizz. 8, Villanova. 9, Illinois State. And 10, Kennesaw State. When that came out, it was a couple weeks ago, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. I just like the feel of this one a little bit better. Maybe just because flip-flop Montana State and Montana there. So,
man, if there's any veteran in the media in the FCS, Craig Haley's as veteran as it gets.
Yeah, that guy is salty too. I love it.
I think we've talked about it. He gets pretty salty on Twitter. It's kind of funny, and this is like maybe a whole topic for another podcast, but it's funny how cyclical football is. College football in particular. The NFL kind of gets stuck in their ways, but college football, there's defensive eras, there's rise of like the run and shoot, and there's defenses to counter that, and then defenses kind of take over, and then you got the West Coast offense, and then you got, everything's cyclical. Now you're looking at it, there's teams built to stop the spread, to stop just all of a sudden defense. It's coming back big time in the FCS because you got North Dakota State, you got Northern Iowa, who has one of the elite defenses in the country, but they have an atrocious offense. Like, they would probably kill for Tucker Rovig or Casey Bauman on their team. Like, you think that the Bobcats had problems in the offensive, which we didn't really, but Northern Iowa couldn't move the ball against anybody. Weber State, same scenario. And you keep going down the list. Illinois State, another team that has an extremely good defense, but a pretty dismal offense. So it's just kind of funny to see just how cyclical college football is. And teams like even the Bobcats, who are putting a huge emphasis on defense while being very adept offensively, but defense has been the cup of tea for the Bobcats. So it's kind of interesting to see how football has kind of been cyclical like that, returning to the run the ball first, hard-nosed, tough physical football, and that's what's kind of winning championships right now.
It's a good point, Ryan. Another thing that I was kind of reflecting on when I was looking at this is, even though we're Bobcat fans through and through, I think both you and I can agree that having the Grizz and the Bobcats be, top 10 teams in the nation with all the momentum right now, Bobby Houck, Jeff Choate, that's just good for the state. That's good for the conference. That's good for football.
Yeah, it pains me to say it, but it's good for FCS football if the Montana schools are top 10 teams perennially. Every year.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, that's all I want to talk about with Haley's Athlon Sports Top 25. But again, right, preseason polls mean really nothing, but it does help when you have that early starting point within the top 25, so you don't have to climb in there for playoff rankings.
Real quick here, I recommend giving Craig Haley a follow on Twitter. He is at Craig Haley, Haley. He puts out a ton of good FCS information, and he just gives these little succinct jabs a lot at people, at fans, at people who respond to his polls. It's entertaining. He's very, very short, and I love it. It's just good stuff.
I would love to sit next to Craig, like in a presser, just see his demeanor. I just imagine him like just kind of pissed off all the time, just like, geez.
I don't think so, man. I've listened to he's a podcast guest on several podcasts. In fact, we should probably get him on, but he's always pretty jovial when he goes on like Too Tall and Nuanas and stuff. But he is a salty Twitter follow.
Yeah, we'll get him on.
All right. Well, one last piece of news. I think we only have one. Did we cover them all? I'm going through so many different tabs on my browser. I don't know where we are. Yeah, we got one left. You want to introduce this bad boy? Yeah.
So Kevin Thomson, Big Sky MVP last year, entered the transfer portal just this week, and with a whole bunch of kind of thoughts around that. One being going to the FBS. Again, if you don't know, he's transferring out of Sac State. And Kevin Thomson, right, is a 7th-year college football player, and we'll get into a little bit of his history here just now. But Thorny, what just stood out to you about this?
It's big time. Like, has like the Big Sky reigning offensive or defensive MVP ever transferred? I guess Vernon Adams may have been. I guess Dakota Prukop may have been. So I don't know if Dakota Prukop was ever the Big Sky MVP, but he was certainly in the contention for it. So, but regardless, it is a big time, probably about as big as news as FCS transfers go. It doesn't have like the same media hoopla that Vernon Adams, Dakota Prukop garnered, because they got like attention by Oregon, and this thing's like steamrolled for them. They got on ESPN talking about like the next transfer. I'm not sure Kevin Thompson's going to get that kind of love, but in the FCS world, it's a huge development.
Yeah, outside Dalton Snead, I thought Kevin Thomson was the best quarterback. Big Sky, and of course he got the Big Sky MVP, so I mean, he got the award, but I thought Dalton Sneed was a better quarterback.
For my money, I would actually pick Kevin Thomson just because he took better care of the football.
Yeah, he was more of that true dual threat quarterback, but had a great arm. He just seemed like he was just savvy too. Like he started football in 2014. Do you know the first team he played for?
That would be the UNLV Running Rebels under current Montana Grizzly head coach Bobby Hauck.
And do you think perhaps he might be considering the Grizz?
I can't imagine that conversation hasn't been had between certain parties.
And Ryan, clear this for us. Would he have to sit out?
I don't believe so. So he's got his grad degree, or he's got his undergrad degree. I believe he is also graduated grad college at this point. I have no idea. I don't know what he's going to even do as a 7th year senior when he goes to college anywhere else. But I'm pretty sure he is free and clear to transfer anywhere within the conference, within the FCS, transfer up, transfer down, transfer laterally with no penalty sitting out a year.
So what do you think about that? Him jumping ship from Sac State. Let's say he does land in Missoula. What are your feelings on that?
Well, my number one feeling is the Grizz are pretty much a go from like bubble fringe semifinal, maybe have an outshot shot at the national championship. To that puts them in the contention because, like I just mentioned, I think Kevin Thomson was a better quarterback than Dalton Sneed. Dalton Sneed may have been the better like gamer, just the guy who just gets in the zone, and when he's in the zone, he's unstoppable. But Sneed also made a ton of mistakes, and what he threw 4 or 5 interceptions in the Weber State game. I just don't see Kevin Thomson throwing 4 or 5 interceptions ever in his career. So I think that would be an amazing get for the Grizz. If that were to happen, I wonder why he's transferring. The only thing that makes sense to me is the fact that he thinks that there isn't going to be college football played in California, and maybe he could get another hardship waiver for another year. But the dude's done, man. He's done with school. So if he thinks there's any inclination that they aren't going to play football this year, he's got to get out. He's done being a college student. So he's got 1 year. He's going to go find somewhere where he can play right now with no questions surrounding the circumstances of the season. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. So what are your thoughts if he lands in Missoula?
Man, this just rubs me the wrong way. And it just goes back. It just goes back to like what I believe to be true as a human being, and like things that my father instilled in me as a young man. You finish what you start, you commit, and you see it through. And to me, this transfer portal, I mean, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of the transfer portal because it doesn't really matter what I think. But Kevin Thomson, Troy Taylor, they had a good thing going in Sac State. And like you said, maybe Sac State doesn't get to play football this year, so the writing's on the wall, and he has this miraculous 7th year of eligibility. Okay, that makes sense. What's that?
If he were granted another year, it would be his 8th, wouldn't it?
No, this will be his 7th year.
I know, but I'm saying if he was somehow stayed at Sac, they didn't play football, and he was granted another year, it would be next year, which would be his 8th.
Okay. All right.
Anyway, go on. He's taken the reins from the Case Cookses of the conference.
All I'm saying is there's just something inherently that bugs me about this, and it has nothing to do with him maybe going to Missoula. I mean, that's secondary on the list. Like, okay, cool. Like, okay, let's reconnect with Bobby Hauck. I could see that relationship, and I could see that movement from to have the Big Sky MVP move within the conference. That just rubs me wrong regardless. But like, I kind of question the integrity of Thomson. And I don't even know this kid, you know? And so like, I have a little bit of pause even before saying that, but like to just go and transfer out of a program that you had on the rise. Imagine if you're Elijah Dotson right now and be like, dude, what? You just bailing on us? You know, if you're Troy Taylor going, hey, I thought we were good, man. You know, we had this thing going. You bailing on us right now? Or you just want to go? So I I go back to what my father would say to me. And my dad passed away just this year. But his tenets that he lived by and his advice that just like, the way he lived and the way I observed my father, he would just say, finish what you start, commit, whether it's hard, doesn't matter, get through it, do your job, do the best of where you're at. And when you do your best, you can never hang your head. And that's what my dad would say to me. And I just don't see that. The optics of this from an outsider just screams to me, just like jumping ship. So until I get more news on this, like that's how I feel. That's my initial reaction to it. I'm sure the layers of this is much deeper than what you and I are afforded, but it just rubs me wrong.
To me, you can't be upset at a guy transferring when your team that you root for, the Bobcats, have been so benefited so much from other people's quitting on their former teams. Like, for example, how would you feel if Kevin Thomson announced his transfer to Bozeman? Would you be like, we don't want that kid, get out of here? Was that how you feel about the best quarterback and the biggest guy want to be a Bobcat?
Well, obviously it would feel a little bit different, but I would still go back to it. I mean, it still rubs me the wrong way a little bit. I think Kevin Thomson should grind it out at Sac State and just, complete his task there. Whether or not that's whether or not that's the best thing for Kevin Thomson or not is like I'm kind of just throwing that out the window. But it's just too easy to get into the transfer portal right now, man. That just bugs me inherently. So I don't know, man. It's just something that about Kevin Thomson just getting out again and having 7 years of eligibility. No, man, I don't like it at all.
Well, as a grad transfer, I'm not even sure he would even before. I think this would have been before the transfer portal. He would have been able to transfer regardless because he got his degree. He has fulfilled his duty in every single way to the University of Sacramento State.
Hey, this is just weird talking about too, because like how many college players have had 7 years of eligibility?
Not many, man. That's got to be. I can't think of any other Big Sky player in recent memory. I know we got plenty of 6-year guys, but yeah, 7. Whew. And it's gonna be even weirder now because the redshirt rules allow you to play for 4 games. So you'll have a guy who's a 6-year senior who was granted maybe a year or two, but he also played a lot during his redshirt season. So it's gonna be real weird. But I don't know, man. I get what you're saying. And I don't disagree with it. That's just life, and that is college football, and we benefit from it more just as much as we lose from it as an institution, as an athletic program. So I can't be upset with guys transfer because we benefit from transfers into MSU all the time, like Jacquay Allen and Bryce Stirk. I mean, the list goes on and on.
So let me ask you this. I'm going to play a little devil's advocate with you. What if Denarius McGee was to transfer out his senior season and play for Sac State or the Grizz or any other Big Sky team?
We already had a similar situation in Dakota Prukop, and yeah, it broke my heart. I'm not going to lie. It made me very sad. But if he would have transferred over to the Grizz, it would have sucked. It would have been the most awful thing to happen as a Bobcat fan I can possibly think of. So,
would you continue to say, I can't fault the guy for wanting to do whatever he wants?
Yeah.
Call your bluff on that, man. You would be sitting here just
railing
on him.
But it is his choice.
Man,
life is short. College football is shorter. If you're going to be stuck in a situation where, I don't know, you got to do what's best for you sometimes as a college football player with coaches, universities who make so much money off you. Maybe not the case in Kevin Thomson, but at big universities, you make potentially millions of dollars for university. If you want to go somewhere else, do it. Coach can bail on you and anytime he wants to. This is a whole separate conversation we're going down right here, but I ultimately get what you're saying. Like in this particular case, like unfinished business, I would totally myself be back to trying to like, all right, we fell short. We made the playoffs for the first time, and I never got the answer to this. It may be the program's history, but it's if not a long time. You got to get back. You got to finish it, man. You got to have that desire to want to take it to the next level. We made it to playoffs. We didn't go the way we want. Why not try and make it further? I have so much respect for college teams, basketball, NCAA basketball teams, when they have like fall short just of their championship bid, and the team decides to come back for going like NFL or NBA prospects to try and have a run at championship. I love that kind of stuff. I do, but I will never fault a kid. That doesn't mean I'm not going to be like personally upset or offended or whatever. But ultimately, man, you got to do what's best for you in life.
Yeah, well, I think you and I are going to disagree on this, and I guess the only thing I'm going to say is everywhere FBS, FCS, Big Sky, they're looking out. Thompson's out there right now, and no doubt he's having conversations. I bet he is having conversations with the Grizz. If he lands in Missoula, I'd be disappointed. I'd be disappointed in Kevin Thomson for not sticking out at Sac State. And it just seems like just kind of a cheap way to go about your college career. So that's that.
I find that insulting.
Yeah, well,
just harsh.
It might be, man, but that's just how I feel. But I can see you and I are not going to come to terms on this. So let's.
How do you feel about Troy Andersen redshirting? I think we're done with the Montana State chat here. We've been going for like 35 minutes. We haven't even started yet. So remember that time that we said this would be like a 30-minute episode? Ha!
All right. Yeah. So let's move into the big news that we wanted to get into. Troy Andersen redshirting for the upcoming season. Thorny, you want to take the first take on that?
Yeah, sure. I'll take the first take on that. I like it personally. So if you look at the team that's coming back this year, it's going to be younger. It's not going to be an all or nothing kind of thing. Like last year was kind of like the senior heavy studs, the stars. That was like the make or break last year. And it was a bummer that Troy was hurt down the stretch and he wasn't able to be a part of that to try and take us to the national championship team, that level. But in some ways, it was such a good thing for the Bobcats because we were able to really be a really good football team in November and December without Troy Andersen. So the fact that we're going to have a lot of newcomers next year, we're going to be able to build around some key guys coming back, and Troy Andersen may not be in the mix. Like, I don't know how, obviously it may not be good for the team, but I this year, but I love the fact that it's going to give Troy a chance to fully get healthy, to spend an entire offseason, a full year, redshirting in the weight room, training, and just coming back in 2021 as like the most dominant player in the Big Sky Conference. I personally am a pretty big fan of the move, and I'm happy for Troy. I think it's the best thing for Troy Andersen. What's your take?
I'm really happy for Troy too. I think that's the very first thing that comes to my mind is this is the best thing for him. We could all see it as Montana State fans. Troy was continually playing hurt. And as much as we love Troy, like we want him to be the best version of himself. And that's going to require some rest. And if you listen to Jeff Choate and him talk about what Troy went through the offseason during the onset of the COVID, trying to get surgery to get a lingering issue, healed up. He went through a lot, and it just seems like, this kid just needs to have some downtime, needs to have some rest time. And if you rush it, let's say if all of a sudden like fall comes on and he's like kind of ready, but kind of not ready, we're in the same position we were at the end of last season. Yeah, it just makes a lot of sense for Troy to take this season and to fully heal, not for just Montana State for coming of 2021, but for Troy's future, perhaps in the NFL too. He can't continue just to wreck his body because he plays so stinking hard and so stinking tough. That's never a question. He's definitely going to have to, just get healthy in order to make the best move for him professionally.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that this move is the best for Troy Andersen.
Yeah.
He needs it. He needs to heal. He needs to take some time to heal his body, to get stronger, to withstand what he's been the abuse he's been taking and giving. Like giving abuse takes a toll on your body as well. I mean, we had Jody Owens on, and he kind of talked about that. He did all the hitting, but he said he played 4 years of college football, man. He said it took his toll, which is why, unfortunately, his senior year, he just kind of had some injuries and ended his career sitting out the last, half of a game or whatever against Sam Houston State. So, I mean, things take a toll, no matter whether you're getting hit or doing the hitting, and he played a lot of snaps, so I'm just happy for him as a person, as a young man, to be able to heal. And hopefully that will help his future prospects, wherever they may be in the NFL. And it will definitely make the 2021 Bobcats a absolute force to be reckoned with, because we'll have a lot of pieces coming back that year. So I think it's going to be the best for the Bobcats long term, and by far for Troy Andersen long term.
That's a good point, Ryan. So just kind of a final thought on this, Thorny, is the Bobcats last year without Troy, I'm going to rephrase that. To me, it was a little bit of a blessing in disguise. I thought they coalesced in a way that kind of proved to themselves, hey, we can do this without Troy. And that's not to be a detriment to Troy Andersen, but just kind of a compliment to everybody who was on the team. And I think this year will be just a continuation with that. And it feels to me, when we're not talking about Troy Andersen, if you're a Montana State Bobcat, if you're a player on the team and you're like, okay, Troy, yeah, we're going to do this for Troy, Troy Andersen, this, Troy, that. Be like, at one point, be like, hey, man, there's, 84 other players on this team besides Troy Andersen. And I think, I hate to say it, but I'm going to say it here right now. It might be a breath of fresh air for the other players not to hear about Troy Andersen for this season. I might be completely wrong. I mean, he's a beloved guy, but that can kind of galvanize a team when it's not just about one player, when it's not just about your star, when it's about us. And I definitely know that Jeff Choate preaches that.
I just had a connection I just made while you were talking about that I hadn't ever really made before. Troy Andersen kind of, I'm not sure suffers is the right word I want to use here, but I'm going to use it for lack of a better word, suffers from the same kind of problem that Tim Tebow suffered from. There was always like just a media circus around Tim Tebow, no matter what he did. And it was nothing because of his personality, because of his antics. It was just what it was. Like, it was Team Tebow, the Tim Tebow show. What's Tim Tebow doing? And I feel like that's kind of what Troy Andersen's kind of turned into right now. For the Bobcats, his exploits are so legendary. There's just kind of like this media frenzy following him around no matter what he does. And I'm sure that has to weigh over the team. And it's nothing Troy Andersen's done. By all accounts, he's a good leader, a great teammate. He doesn't necessarily want the spotlight, but the spotlight found him. And so, yeah, maybe it's just a good way for the team to kind of be able to focus on themselves and not just have to just wonder what people are talking about Troy Andersen, all that kind of stuff. So maybe, yeah, that is maybe a breath of fresh air as a wannabe media people like us, that we're not going to have to talk about Troy Andersen next year. Because you kind of feel like you kind of have to, right?
Yeah.
Like right now, is there any other player in MSU last 10, 20 years that we would talk about this extent of their redshirting? I guess maybe if like McGee or any of the star quarterbacks redshirted, but maybe that'd be about it. And that'd be like a surprise redshirt.
This is a good point, but yeah, Troy is a definitely transcendent player, no doubt. So he deserves every accolade he has gotten and will get. So all the press totally deserve it, but I can't help but think that this will be something that galvanizes the team this year.
Yep, I could totally see that. And he's going to be a great leader, from that sidelines. He's going to be there coaching up, telling people, what do you do here? I mean, he's going to be just the consummate teammate all year long. He is, because that's just Troy Andersen. Though my one question is, in terms of how the Bobcats replace the production on defense, I think we have guys who can replicate some of the things he does. We'll find some guys. Daniel Hardy comes to mind immediately as one of the guys with the athleticism to kind of do the things that he does defensively. Does this Ryan Foley, does this mean the complete death of the Wildcat quarterback as we know it under Jeff Choate?
I hope so. Oh, no, I take that back. I don't hope so. Because we got so unique with it in the very end when Troy was out. So, no, it's not going to be. I'm pretty certain it won't be the end of the Wildcat.
So the caveat I want to make a clear distinction here. The way the Bobcats used the Wildcat quarterback, there was very, very, very little threat that quarterback was going to throw the ball. We're not talking about a dual quarterback who has some +1 capabilities, who's going to run the Wildcat out of, more as a running back type player. I guess I'm kind of talking myself into a circle here. Matt McKay and athletic quarterbacks like them, Eric Berrier, aren't going to do the kind of same stuff. We're talking like Wildcat quarterbacks don't really throw the ball. Who's going to do that then? Who's going to be the Bobcat player who has just enough threat that like maybe he'll throw the ball, but he probably won't? That's going to be back there doing that kind of stuff that Travis Johnson and Troy Andersen did.
I have no clue.
I just don't think
nobody comes to
personnel.
mind. Yeah, nobody comes to mind right now. All I'm thinking of is Isaiah Fonse back there just taking the snaps. So if we can consider him a quarterback, which probably not, but yeah, I don't feel like there's that person who is like, he could throw the ball, but probably not.
I mean, even if like Kevin Cassis was still on the team, he could fill that role a little bit because he can throw the ball.
Yeah.
And he can
better
do some
than
things
Troy
in the run
Andersen
game.
did.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Kevin Cassis threw about as many touchdowns as Troy Andersen did. That's actually a fun research stat. Did Kevin Cassis throw more touchdown passes than Troy Andersen? I think Troy threw more. I think it was like 5-3 though. All right.
All right, man. Thorny, well, this leads us into the final question of tonight is who's going to wear number 41? Vacated by Braden Conkle last year. We assumed Troy Andersen was going to assume this. What are your thoughts on this?
Before we get in too far into the discussion about who should be the number 41 this next year, we should recap a little bit what that new tradition is going to be. Jeff Choate instilled this last year. He said, going forward from this season, a player hailing from Montana will wear jersey number 41. The first season on record for which the Bobcats assigned jersey numbers, 1926, saw Pop Gregory from Lewistown wear number 41. Since then, such stars as Sam McCullum, Ron Murray, Brad Daly, and Grant Collins have all donned the number. Choate is unsure how the selection process will take place, but and I haven't heard much else about it other than it's pretty much just got to be a guy from Montana. Could be offense, could be defense. Probably can't be offensive line just because of the number of restrictions for offensive linemen. But other than that, I don't know who's going to select it. If it's going to be Choate, it can be the coaches, it's going to be players and coaches. But regardless, it's up to us as podcasters here to sit here and talk about who we think should deserve number 41 now that Troy Andersen's clearly out of the picture. You want to take a first stab at who you think should get it?
Well, I got a question for you real quick. Is there any other number restrictions on the team that can't 41?
As far as I know, I believe offensive line have to be between like 60 and 90 or something like that, or 70 and 90. I think that's the only restrictions there's going to be anywhere on either side of the ball.
That's a really weird rule. Now I'm going to go look that up shortly.
I know as a high school referee, I had to kind of keep an eye on these things, but I was not a real good referee, so I don't remember the rule book real well.
Okay, well, I'm going to give the obvious one, and I think that has to be a senior. I'm going to assume it's going to be a senior because I feel like this number 41 is going to have to travel from year to year. I don't think it's going to be like, okay, if you're a junior, you get to keep it 2 years in a row. So I'm assuming it's a senior, and so I'm going to go Chase Benson, defensive tackle from Helena.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at just seniors from Montana, Chase Benson clearly is the forefront. The only other guy looking down the list, we got Michael Jobman, How is Michael Jobin a senior already? That's crazy to me. Lance McCutcheon, and then there's Kyle Finch. Those are really the only guys that I'm looking at here who might see some significant playing time. But Chase Benson clearly is the guy who's going to be probably the most impact on the program. Gonna maybe first team. You know, he's the only guy on this list who could probably going to make all conference accolades at the end of the year. So to me, unless Chase Benson is just like a terrible teammate or something, which I've heard nothing of the sort, just putting it out there. I would, if you're looking at seniors, Chase Benson, I think, has to be the front runner for that. It'd be, number 41 along the defensive line's not uncommon at all. So, yeah, I think he'd be the leading candidate.
Who would be your second?
I'd probably dip into the junior ranks. So then you got guys like RJ Fitzgerald, who I think would be a deserving candidate just for how tough he is. He's kind of the guy that you just think of like the Montana tough kind of guy. You got him right up there. Then you also have Callahan O'Reilly, who really came on strong as a sophomore last year. I think he's going to get a lot of playing time. I think he's going to be a great player for the Bobcats, great teammate, great guy from good old Bozeman, Montana. And then on down the list, those are really my top candidates when you're looking at the upperclassmen. Yeah, Archie Fitzgerald, Callahan O'Reilly, and Chase Benson would be my three guys. I would have no problem with any of them getting, but I would say, yeah, Benson has to be my leading candidate of all classes. Probably RJ Fitzgerald, number 2. Who do you have?
Well, definitely Chase Benson, but the one that's kind of a wildcat to me is Lance McCutcheon. Can you imagine a wide receiver wearing number 41?
I feel like the Eastern Washington had plenty of wide receivers in the 40s in the past.
I'd be interested to see the criteria Jeff Choate lays out for 41. I think, thinking back to interviews I've heard in the past, the 41 is kind of internal business, and so I don't think we're going to be privy to the ins and outs of who is selected and why. I mean, we'll definitely know, obviously, who is selected, but to the why, I don't know if we're going to be afforded that opportunity.
No, maybe not. I'm sure Jeff Choate will come out to the press conference and talk a little bit about it, but he might not give the whole criteria. He might just give reasons why he thinks or he was selected to be the new number 41. But might not give the whole like how he got to be number 41 behind the scenes, behind the curtain type thing. But it's interesting to see. I like the idea of the tradition, so it'll be interesting to see who gets it.
Well, I bet you and I can both agree that whoever it is this year, probably Troy's going to be it year after.
If you can envision Troy Andersen in any number but number 15.
Yeah.
Which is also Tim Tebow's number, right?
Was.
Yeah. Oh, crap. Look at my Tim Tebow conspiracy. Or more like correlation. Conspiracy is a very strong word for this. But doesn't make any sense, really. But yeah, just the connection. Yeah. All right. Well, there you have it. There's our episode. Anything else you want to talk about?
Nope. I'm good to go, buddy.
All right. Well, let's get out of here. Stay tuned. We have an interview with Zach Minter, which will probably be released before this, so completely moot me talking about it right now. But yeah, we have an interview with Zach Minter. If it hasn't released, look forward to it. If it's already been released, check it out. You can follow us on Twitter, our CatCast. We're going to eventually fire back up the Golden Koozie machine. You can ask us koozie questions at any time. Don't be afraid to ask them. If we're not asking for questions, if we haven't specifically asked for Golden Koozie questions, just shoot us a tweet. Email us at rrcatcast@gmail.com. Check us out on Bobcat Nation. Just fire away those Golden Koozie questions, and we'll incorporate in the episode. And if you ask when we ask on air, we'll make sure to send you a Golden Koozie. Beyond that, find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. Give us a like, a subscribe. Make sure you subscribe so you get the latest episodes delivered straight to your listening device before I tweet it, before I put it on Bobcat Nation. So you listen to the first thing. So as always, let's end this with a Go Cats.
Go Cats.